So yeah, you're old, you're irrelevant. You've got a horrible bottle, but to be fair, you smell pretty nice. Clones, boring, shouldn't exist. Why are clones around? What sort of shape is that? That's horrendous. Oh, a little sample. What's the point of samples? Why don't you just buy a normal bottle size, 100 ml or something? Opinions are everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's fragrances, it doesn't matter if it's watching a game of football, politics, or let's not get into politics. But today I want to give 10 of my sort of perfume opinions essentially, and I want to see how many you agree with me. So I've written 10 down, I'm going to go through them today, one obviously now, some during my workouts, and yeah, just all the stuff in between. So yeah, hope you enjoy this one today. Morning. I was lying in bed last night and I thought, what are some of my controversial fragrance opinions? Some I think are a little bit controversial, others I don't think are too bad. But as I just said, I've got 10 opinions today and I'm going to just share them during my run, during my gym workout, during my walk to the gym, while I'm having my coffee. Essentially, all the bits you normally see me. If you've seen my fitness fragrance reviews before, I tend to be doing different things at different times, all in the same structure, and that's what you're going to see today. So I'm going to do the first one now before I get ready for my run. My first controversial opinion, if you want to say it's controversial, I think some of you will agree, some of you may not. Creed Aventus is overrated. Now, I do need to caveat that. Creed Aventus has been one of the most cloned fragrances out there. There is so many clones of this one. Club de Nuit and numerous. I've got one called Cool Vetiver by Marks and Spencers, which is apparently a clone of it. And that probably meant when I first smelt this fragrance, and when most people first smell Creed Aventus, they've probably smelt cheaper clones of it before because it's a step up. The only time you'll probably smell Creed Aventus, other than the fact you've bought it maybe before, is in a shop. And I remember smelling it in a shop called House of Fraser. Now there was a gentleman who was in the shop at the time who was doing this. He was going, and there was barely anything left in the fragrance. I thought, finally, I get a chance to smell this really, really popular scent once he disappeared. And I did. And I thought, wow, that is really, really boring. Look, it's got this smoky citrus vibe some people talk about. Some people have said it's changed with reformulation. Some say it smells more citrusy or pineapple-y. Some people now say it smells more smoky, and they don't like that either way. In my opinion, it's been cloned so many times that it's become boring, and that's because yeah, we know that smell. It's easy to detect. But even if I'd never smelt it before, would I have loved Creed Aventus? No, I don't think so. One, because it's super, super expensive. And two, I don't think it has that complexity. There's a lot more fragrances out there that have a lot more complexity than this one. And I just don't think it's great for that price. I think it's very gentlemanly, very classy, easy to pull off in multiple situations. But for that price, no chance, no chance. Not the fact as well that so many people have made fakes of it and clones. Oh, if I really want that smell, I'll just get a clone. I will just get a clone in that occasion. So for my opinion, I think Creed Aventus is done very well, but I think the actual smell of it is overrated. But you cannot fault the amount of sales it's made. It's done very well, and that's why everyone is looking to either get it or copy it. Here's my second opinion, which I think we can all agree with. Coughs, colds, flus, they're horrible, and I'm suffering with it today. But the other opinion, stop moaning, Harry. Let's get on to the fragrance opinions. So the second one, I think the terms eau de cologne, eau de toilette, eau de parfum, pure parfum are a little bit misleading at times, a little bit overrated, let's say. Now, the reason they call them those things is to do with the concentration of perfume. Also, there's obviously a high concentration in eau de toilette, perfume, pure perfume, than there is in an eau de cologne. Eau de parfum has a higher concentration of perfume than it does in an eau de toilette. However, that normally, and as a general rule of thumb, that normally means eau de parfums, for example, are stronger than your eau de toilette. However, that's not always the case. And look, across different brands and different scent profiles, I don't mind it. I expect an eau de parfum citrus is not going to be as heavy as an eau de toilette winter type sweet fragrance. That's fine. But there's some fragrances out there where they say eau de parfum, and it's the same fragrance. So Tom Ford Grey Vetiver, I believe there's an eau de toilette eau de parfum. Ombre Leather, it's exactly the same. Now, I would expect the eau de parfum to be more intense, and sometimes they are, but in other cases they're not. And what really is different between the two is the scent just smells different. It's almost like they've just made a flanker of it and just thought, we can't be bothered to think of a different name, so we'll just call it an eau de parfum. And I find that really frustrating. To me, that's misleading. As I said, as a general rule of thumb, eau de parfums are strong, but when I'm buying fragrances like that, I expect the scent to smell almost exactly the same and just be slightly more intense, more concentrated. But that isn't always the case, and normally when they are an eau de parfum compared to an eau de toilette, they're more expensive. So sometimes I think those terms are a little bit misleading, and it fools people into thinking, oh, I'll buy that more intense version, that stronger version, and then you end up being a little bit disappointed. Has anyone else had that situation? And have you had any fragrances you can think of in particular where you've experienced that? Let me know, comment below, because I think that's quite a common problem. So my third opinion is tester strips are a complete and utter waste of time. So you go to a fragrance shop and there's always like a little pot next to the fragrances of these little cardboard strips which you spray and then sniff. And I don't like them for a few reasons. One is because once you've used it, you don't know what to do with it. And what most people tend to do then is they tend to fold it up into like a little cube and then just shove it by the side, meaning that the staff have got to tidy them all up. There's nowhere to put them. They never seem to have any bins next to them, I don't find. So some people just put them back in the pot and just leave them in there, which makes it feel like, as I said, a complete waste of time and a complete waste of energy. The other thing with them, of course, is if you spray, you can only use them once anyway. And then on top of that, they don't smell with your skin chemistry. I find whenever I smell those strips, all it smells like to me is cardboard mixed with the fragrance. That's not what it smells like when I wear it on my arm. Obviously when I'm sweating things change, or even on my clothing, and it doesn't give me a true representation of what the fragrance smells like to me. So what I end up doing is I tend to just spray my clothing anyway, but I've had a few issues with that as well in the past. I remember going into House of Fraser again, when it was a shop that was around in England and the UK. Sometimes you'd have people standing around their security because they didn't want you to take the mick and just literally just use all the sprays up. And I remember spraying my clothes all these scents, and the gentleman was kind of sort of implying, right, you need to stop doing that now, unless you're going to buy one. You need to stop doing that. And it's like, yeah, but these strips don't work, they don't smell in the same way. So I think they're a waste of time. I'm sure there's better things that we can do to utilise it, actually just try to smell the fragrance without having to either rely on yourself or on a tester strip. But again, I think they're a waste of time, and I still never use them. If I'm in a shop, I'll spray them on myself. So my fourth opinion is a bit of a contradiction to what I said in my intro, but of course that was a bit of acting. And I think this one will divide opinion. I think fragrance clones are fantastic. Some people think they're one of the worst things ever to happen in the fragrance industry, and I do get that. You're just copying a really expensive scent, and if you didn't know this, you can obviously trademark a name of the fragrance, so you can trademark bottle names, which is why clones don't copy the names. But apparently you can't trademark a specific scent. So that's why clones exist. You can get away with it because literally the smell, the nose, whatever you use, can't essentially be used and trademarked against you. But again, I understand why people don't like them. You're spending like £30 for something that's just copied an expensive scent that did it first, like an original. It's like copying someone's homework. It's not the right thing to do. However, I look at it these days in terms of, you know, we've got like these cost of living crises, so many things about very expensive. And let's be honest, if you're spending like £300, £400 on a scent, that's a heck of an investment if you don't 100% know what you're going for. And let's be honest, how hard is it to go to the shop and find a £400 fragrance, even with a tester, to just go and try it? So you normally do have to just risk it. And the beauty with clone fragrances, you can just buy it for £20-30. It's much lower risk, and normally you can get like a little 5ml sample with these as well, rather than spending like 100ml for a 100ml bottle for say 30. You really can just try them out. And I think they've just got better and better, the clones. If you look at clone websites now, they're using more concentrated perfume oils. They don't smell as harsh and fetty. And for someone like myself who wants to try and buy different scents, it allows me to, again, appreciate what's out there, appreciate differences, and if I don't want to spend those high prices because I haven't got the money to, I can still get that similar vibe of smell for a much lower price. Or alternatively, if I think, wow, I really like that clone of this fragrance, it might mean then for a birthday, or if I save up, I can then buy the original. But I do get it. I say I completely understand why people don't like the clones, the idea of clones, because you feel like you're ripping those companies off. But for me, I think those companies are charging ridiculous prices, regardless of quality. Look, I've had plenty of Acqua di Parma scents which I think smell really high quality, but they are expensive, there's no choice about it, and you do get what you pay for to a degree. But even so, that doesn't mean it's not an investment if you're not 100% sure. So I think clones are fantastic. Very interested to know what some of you think with them, but I'm still going to buy them, that's for sure. So workout done, it's time now to do my next two opinions before I head to the gym. So the next one is actually a little bit of a controversial one, I think. I think vanilla is overused in fragrances. Now, I need to say this, some of my favourite fragrances, some of my top 5, certainly top 10 fragrances have vanilla in. Acqua Palm Vanilla, it's a beautiful, beautiful, more summer citrus vanilla scent, which I don't normally like, but that is amazing. And of course, everyone's favourite, Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford, amazing scent. But what we're tending to find now, particularly in that sort of 20, 30, 40 pound range, vanilla is being used a lot, obviously with caramel, tonka bean, and they're all becoming very samey. I'm not necessarily saying that they're necessarily clones of more expensive fragrances, but they've got that generic, safe gourmand vibe, which is fine. But sometimes you want that little bit of uniqueness, and I feel like a lot of them now are lacking it. If you can find one, maybe some green notes with vanilla, Elf of the Throp, which I've mentioned from Lush at the moment, is an amazing scent, then it's great. But I think overall, vanilla is just being overused. Do something different. Try and find something that can break the mold and be the next trend in fragrances, because at the moment it just feels that vanilla caramel vibe is here to stay in men's and women's fragrances. And personally, as someone who buys a lot, I'm looking for something that little bit different that might make me think, wow, I need to always have that in my collection. That's my signature scent. And then the next opinion on my list, and I think a lot of you will agree with me on this one, and this is probably a little bit of a dig at Tom Ford in particular. Tom Ford fragrances, again, I absolutely love most of them. I think they're brilliant if you find the right one. However, don't use swear words to name your fragrances. To me, that's just gimmicky. It actually cheapens the fragrances. You know the couple I'm on about. There's one that's a rose fragrance. There's also, more importantly, one called Fabulous with a swear word that was before it. They put the name of it, or the word, the F word, on the bottle with it at first. Then, due to a little bit of criticism online, they put a red line through it, masked it. And I don't even know now if they even just call it Fabulous. Either way, it didn't need that. I really like that fragrance. And when I looked on Fragrance, it didn't get good reviews. I think it got about 3.6, 3.4. The fragrance, in my opinion, is really good. And I think if it had a better name, that score would have been higher. It's got marked down for that because people don't like it. You don't need to do that. Certainly not with these top fragrances anyway. You don't need to. Forget swear words. Just name the fragrance the right thing. Just call it Fabulous, because that is what it is. Something else fabulous. There's a lot of fantastic fabulous. Obviously, I think better something on the spot. But this was better than that, and it didn't need those swear words. It doesn't need to be gimmicky. It's £300, whatever it is. It's a private blend fragrance. Don't cheapen it. Make it better, because it is a great scent. You've got the scent. You've got the selling point. The name doesn't need to be that selling point. People will buy it if the scent is good enough. If you want to make that extra 5%, I'm sure you can think of something better than that. So Tom Ford, that's a bit of a dig at you. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one. Time to head to the gym now. We will talk about some of our next opinions on the way. Honestly, the weather is absolutely lovely today. I'm very much someone whose mood is affected by the weather, so it's making my opinions maybe not sound quite as aggressive and controversial as you think. But let's go on to the next one then. So my next one is about synthetic. When you see like reviews and people online who say, oh, this fragrance smells overly synthetic, or it's just a synthetic scent, people tend to almost portray that as a bad thing. But I'm going to say this, synthetic can be and is very good. Boozy notes in fragrances, they're not obviously booze. I've got one of my favourite fragrances, Nasonato Bronda, lovely whiskey caramel type scent. It's amazing. Have they put whiskey in it? No, but they've had to make this synthetic molecule to represent and replicate that smell. And I've recently bought one by Zara, which I've done a review on, Ultra Glitch Dystopia 004, something along those lines. Names are getting too confused, and that's another thing that annoys me. Give it a simple name. Again, it's got a synthetic strawberry cream pastry note, and I find it really addictive, really Moorish, a little bit cloying at times. But synthetic molecules are getting really good at replicating smells that we really like, particularly gourmand smells, foodie type smells that are becoming so popular. And I sort of think, well, look, of course, you want it to be as natural smelling as you can, but if synthetic molecules are ultimately safe, first of all, so they're not dangerous to apply to your skin, which they're obviously tested, and they replicate a smell that you really want better than a more natural molecule, then what's wrong with it? In my opinion, that's absolutely fine. Look, I obviously talk about food quite a lot as well, and there's lots of foods which we buy. Look, Marks and Spencer's are a prime example. If you look at Marks and Spencer's and you look on the back of their packaging, they're one of the worst for artificial flavours. They always just say flavouring, they never say natural flavours and colours. I can guarantee you if they did, they would mention that they're natural. They just put flavouring. And most people would say they're the gold standard of chocolate and, food in particular. Marks and Spencer's like number one. but that's because they've added things that make it taste even better than maybe something that is a little bit more natural, more realistic. And I think that's the same with fragrances. As long as they're tested and they're safe, you know, and they've been through all those processes and they replicate the smell of leather or whatever you want really well, I don't think that's a bad thing. If it makes it a bit cheaper as well, because they're slightly cheaper ingredients, even better. So for me, synthetic can be good and it can smell good and get you the confidence that you're looking for. The weather has brought all the cars and people out today. It is a Monday morning as well, so there's a lot more traffic, but I'm hoping you'll be able to hear me. The next opinion then, and I don't think this is too controversial to say this, but French and Italian brands are the leaders and the masters in perfumery. And I'm going to just edge it though here and say Italian brands are better than French brands when it comes to the best smelling fragrances. So I look at the top Italian brands. You've got things like Acqua di Parma, you've got Prada, you've got Bulgari, you've got Dolce & Gabbana. There are lots of really, really top Italian brands in fragrances, and there's some top French ones as well. You know, we can talk about Lancôme, Givenchy, Dior. There's many, many good ones, but for me, the very best fragrances come from Italy. I find Italy is a country and a culture that just oozes class. You think of white t-shirts, moustache, sunglasses, slick back hair, you know, just Venice with all the sea and you know, the water running through the town and city. It's amazing, and I just think their fragrances are very, very slightly better than French ones. But let me know what you think. Do you prefer brands like Dior over some of the ones that I've just mentioned? Personally though, I just think Italian, there's something about them that just have that class and elegance that probably doesn't match my style in terms of what I wear, but I do appreciate the sense. And if I could live anywhere, look, I've actually got French, you know, my granddad's half French, so I've got a bit of French in me. And I'm saying now, if I could live anywhere in the world other than the UK, it'd either be Netherlands or, because of the fragrances, probably Italy, because I think they got the best sense. I may not agree with me straight away with this one, but once you've heard my explanation, I'm hoping I can change your mind with this. But it's essentially that sort of extravagant or bold shaped bottles or bold bottle designs mask bad scents. And the first one that came to my mind here, and I first of all need to say, I don't think it's a bad scent at all. Moschino Toy Boy, it's like a bear, isn't it? And essentially the fragrance lid is the head of the bear. It's gimmicky, isn't it? It's very gimmicky. And for me, look, it's an absolutely fine scent. But when I look at that bottle, I think that's kind of its selling point more than the fragrance itself. You're not going to get a brand like Creed or an Acqua di Parma that are more serious smells doing those sort of bottles. They keep very serious, uniform, classy, elegant looking bottles. Even if, again, Creed isn't my favourite brand, but it's got that serious, gentlemanly, refined quality about it that you know it's just very, very classy. Look, there's some brands that have always been quite bold and out there, and I'm not really meaning them in particular. So Versace, whether it's their clothing line or their bottles in particular, they're always going to be bold. Gucci, another one, Italian brand, which I didn't mention earlier, they've got some, you know, really out there bold designs alongside their clothing. I'm not really on about them because that kind of reflects them as a brand more than anything. But it's more those ones that kind of, you know, just sell fragrances in particular and give it a fancy bottle almost just to make you buy it, because the bottle does draw you in. I've bought fragrances based on their bottles sometimes, and that's absolutely fine if you do that. And look, you may absolutely love the fragrance, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to like it. My opinion of what a bad scent is, you know, could be very different to yours, but it just feels like they do that on purpose because they know it gives them that extra edge, and it almost masks potentially some of the quality. Sometimes people may just buy it rather than thinking too much about the scent. And I link it to food here. Again, I'm very much a foodie person. I love my Crave cereal. If you know Crave cereal, any sugary cereal to be honest with you, you'll probably see on the front of the packet it says fortified with vitamins and minerals, vitamin D, high iron, all these other things. It gives you all these health claims. It doesn't say high in sugar or anything like that. Again, don't worry about that. It's up to you whether you want it. Treat yourself. But does a packet of banana or a packet of apples tell you it's high in fibre, got all these vitamins and minerals in? No, it doesn't, because it doesn't need to. You know an apple and a banana is healthy. They don't need to put health claims on their things to justify, you know, why you should buy it. They'll just say maybe crispy and sweet or succulent and sweet, because they might think, oh, that variety of apple sounds more like something I want. But they don't need to put all the health claims that some of these other things do. And that's kind of what I feel like that some of these bottles are doing. They're not saying that it's bad or, you know, you can't have some benefits from these fragrances. But to say like a gimmicky bottle is going to smell as good as a high-end type scent, it's just, in my opinion, not reality. And that's why I find with these more expensive brands, the ones that are £300, £400, £500, you don't get bears or any silly shaped things on them. they're just high quality scents. They let the fragrance, the scent itself, do the talking. So I think sometimes bottles mask bad fragrances, certainly bold ones anyway. I'm just heading back from the gym now, and it's time to do my final opinion. It's around fragrances that are vegan friendly. Now, you'll see it a lot if you look at hand washes, soaps, shower gels, whatever. A lot of them now say vegan friendly on the front, and I know Lush particularly do make a point of them having vegan friendly products. But for me, when it comes to fragrances and sprays, I'll be honest, I'm not really that bothered whether it's vegan friendly or not. Now, I'll always do my bit. I love vegan food, first of all. I try and have a couple of vegan meals a week. I still enjoy my meat, to be honest, as well. But there's other things I'll do as well to try and be more sustainable, try and do the right thing for the planet. You know, I'll recycle. I have a massive flask at home, so I don't need to keep boiling the kettle. I don't take the car whenever I don't. As you see, I always go out walking. If I can walk to the gym, walk back. I don't want to use the car when I don't have to. So I'd always try and do my bit as well. But yeah, when it comes to scents, for me, being a vegan friendly scent, a little bit too far for me. I find that if a brand can do a vegan friendly scent, let's say there's one currently that I really, really enjoy, a real classic, let's say Aramis, but for whatever reason it's not vegan friendly, they can't make it vegan friendly unless it changes the scent profile. For me, I'll go, oh well, don't worry about it, I'll just have the original Aramis, even though it may not be vegan friendly. But if they can replicate that smell and make it exactly the same, be vegan friendly, then I'm all for it. But if it meant that it affects the consumer potentially, in terms of with fragrances, I probably wouldn't bother. I think for me it'd be a little bit too much. Obviously, in terms of other things like food and stuff, I completely understand why people are vegan, but for fragrances, it's not a deal breaker for me. And I'd be really interested to know for anyone who, you know, does have some vegan friendly fragrances, if you check the back of your bottle, it might tell you, is it a deal breaker for you? Is it something you look out for, or is it really still the scent that's the priority? And that is it for today. So I've done 10 different opinions there, and I'd be interested to know how many of them you agree with. Have I gone too far with some of them? Are some of them not really important, they don't really matter at all? Or do you think I've not gone far enough on some, and maybe I should have been a little bit more opinionated? Of course, I tried to give a little bit of both sides of the argument as well to justify my reasoning. But look, we always have an opinion on everything. It doesn't matter whether it's about fragrances, about appearances, whatever. That's just a part of life. We'll all have opinions, and they're all different. I think as long as we look at, and respect everyone's differences and look at the whole picture, I think they're a very good thing to have. We all need to have our own individual uniqueness, and I'm hoping that, as I said, some of these as well, I've given you a good justification. Maybe, hopefully, I've changed your mind on a few. Let me know if I've also changed your mind on some that maybe you didn't consider before. But yeah, share some of your opinions as well. I'd be really interested to know some of your friends' opinions. And yeah, I can't wait to sort of share my thoughts on those as well. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you later.